Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another The Sports Scoop video. Today, we are continuing our positional rankings, top 5 rankings for each position in the NFL draft. I am joined by my host, Suraj. I'm Cian McDermott. Welcome to The Sports Scoop. Today, we're looking at top 5 receivers in the NFL draft, giving you top 5, both of our opinions, bouncing some ideas off one another. We are having podcasts every Wednesday starting next week, so make sure you can comment anything down below for our mailbag. As well, follow all of our social medias at The Sports Scoop to stay more in touch with us. And let's get into the video. All right, let's get into player number 5, Florida slot threat, Cadarius Toney. Now, Suraj, I know you're very high on him. What are your thoughts on Cadarius Toney, and why is he a top 5 receiver in this draft?
Yeah, I really liked Cadarius Toney. I feel like he was provided a great weapon for Kyle Trask, especially when Kyle Pitts wasn't healthy for the entire season. I think he has, again, very good route running, got good hands for a slot receiver. And obviously, I don't know if he has what it takes to be a number 1 wide receiver, considering the fact that he isn't exactly, again, you don't always want your slot receiver to be your number 1 receiver, but they are very important in the NFL. So I feel like there are a lot of teams that could use that type of guy who can be a reliable pass catcher out of the slot, which I feel like he'd be a very good player. I think he's one of those players that I don't think he'll be a great player, but I think he has a very high chance of being a good and very great contributor on whatever team he goes to.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, we're looking at a guy who went from 10 receptions in 2019 to having 70 this year, just shy, about less than 20 yards shy of 1,000 receiving yards, 10 touchdowns, averaging 14 yards per catch. So yeah, a classic slot, can really gash defenses in the open field. Someone who's really fast, very good. I mean, he really just reminds me of kind of a Suraj, got this word from him, kind of gadget guys, people who can play across the line. He can play in RPOs. He can run the ball. You can put him in back sets like we've seen from Deebo Samuel, Curtis Samuel. So I'm a big fan of Cadarius Toney. I think he's a really, really lethal slot weapon. Someone who I really would like to see him go to, actually, Suraj, would be the Jets, assuming they move on from Crowder. But Cadarius Toney is now at 5. Suraj, getting onto number 4. This one is where it starts. This is where the hate comments start to come in. We have Jalen Waddle out of Alabama, who I know a lot of people have as their number 1. Suraj, break down why we have him here at 4.
Well, I think I don't get me wrong. I think in most draft classes, except maybe this year's and last year's classes, Jalen Waddle would be a number 1 or number 2 wide receiver in a class. But this class is so top heavy, so good that I have to rank him at number 4. I think he still is a very big question mark, considering he is coming off a season-ending. Well, he did play in the national championship, clearly wasn't 100%.
And hobbled.
Exactly. So we don't know 100% what he will be, especially in this COVID-infested offseason. We don't know what his medical report from his doctor is. I assume he is okay. But with other receivers that we will get into, it's less about Waddle being the number 4 receiver. It's more that a problem that there are 3 incredible wide receivers that, in my opinion, are actually better than Waddle. It's nothing against him. I think he has great speed, great route running, could easily be a number 1 wide receiver. But I feel like the other 3 guys have set even higher ceilings, which is hard to believe.
I agree. And again, no hate against Jalen Waddle. I think Jalen Waddle is an incredible receiver. But it's just, I feel like, and something I really do like about him is, as we've said, Cadarius Toney's a slot guy. He's not going to be a wide receiver 1. And I feel like Waddle's the same, but I feel like Waddle has potential to be a wide receiver 1 sometime down his NFL timeline. But again, you're looking at a guy who's never had an absurd amount of yards or touchdowns, has never gotten over 7, never gotten over 848 yards, which, yes, that's amazing, and that was in his freshman year. But again, if you're looking at Devonta Smith, JaMarr Chase, some of the other higher receivers, obviously we're not spoiling the video. It's not like you guys thought we were putting anyone else up there. But, receivers who are getting close to 2,000 yards a season, I just think Jalen Waddle, again, great on special teams, but there are better receivers.
Getting into our number 3, this is the one that we have over Waddle that could be a bit debatable. We have Rashod Bateman. I think he is a fantastic receiver. Before I get into him, I think we have to give it to Cian. He is the biggest fan of Bateman. Cian, get into why Bateman's number 3, at least on your board.
Now, let me tell you about Rashod Bateman. I'm going to say to me that I think he'll be the best receiver out of this draft class. I think he just has all of the tools to be a great guy, someone who's adjustable across the line, ran a 4.39. If you guys didn't go check out the video I did solely on Bateman, make sure you go check that out. It was our first, deep dive on a player. Such a good guy. I mean, was measured at 6 feet on his pro day, and he was 6'2". I don't know which is which. That did surprise me a bit, but he's definitely a bigger receiver compared to the ones. It's kind of a small receiver class, at least in the top 5. But, Bateman is such a good receiver, having his best year last year, because this year, as we talked about in the other video, kind of opted in, out, played. I think he played 5 games, so he didn't play much. But last year in 2019, 60 receptions, 1,200 yards, 11 touchdowns. Someone who's great short and great downfield. I couldn't say enough about him. I think he's a phenomenal receiver and will be very, very good at the next level. I think he will surprise us like we saw from Tyler Johnson, the other Minnesota receiver. I love Bateman, but Suraj, I've taken the spotlight. Why do you like him?
Yeah, I like Bateman also just because of the fact that his numbers again last year were incredible. Obviously opted out a bit for this season. But when you look at Bateman, you also think that he could have had stats so much better if he actually had a much more competent quarterback. Because if you watch Minnesota even last year when they were very good, their quarterback play wasn't stellar. They just had 2 very good wide receivers who would go on to be NFL level talents in Tyler Johnson and Rashod Bateman. So I feel like Bateman, even with the quarterback play, his ability to excel really shows his kind of complete wide receiver game. Obviously, he's has a big body, has good speed for that frame, also has great hands, and his route running is crisp. There's really not much to not like about Bateman. So I feel like he's very well deserving of the number 3 spot, and a lot of people are sleeping on him. I feel like even if he were to be picked in the top 15, which I know no one has him in, I wouldn't consider it actually that bad of a pick considering how confident me and Cian both are in him. At first, I wasn't like this, but Cian really has kind of turned me around a bit, and I see really kind of how a lot of people are very interested in how the type of player he can be on the NFL level.
Love to hear that, boys. I turned one. Let's go. All right, number 2, we're looking at Devonta Smith out of Alabama, Heisman winner, absolute monster. Suraj, why is he number 2 and not number 1? But first, get into what do we like about Devonta Smith?
I think Devonta Smith, a lot of people even have him as number 3 or number 4, and I don't really understand why he's dropping so much. I think when you look at Devonta Smith, I think he's the best route runner easily in this class. His frame is a bit frightening and doesn't have the best speed for that frame. Not as good as Waddle's to justify it, but I still think he is definitely worthy of the number 2 spot on this list. Again, he was probably the main reason for Alabama's title run, their dominance on the offensive level. And I think, again, great route runner, has very good hands. There's not much really to dislike, again, besides his frame, which I think isn't really that big of a concern considering how cornerbacks are less physical and strong. Well, they are physical and strong, but they have less. Their frames are also getting smaller, and they're more focused on physical at the line of scrimmage and more focusing on speed, which Smith can oust both of them, which I feel like he can transition well into the new NFL. Reason why I don't have him at number 1 is, again, just because the number 1 guy is also really good, and we don't know. I can't really rank him down just because of the fact that he didn't play next season. I think you all know who it will be, but I still think Devonta Smith is easily worthy of number 2, and I wouldn't be upset if he was number 1 either. Cian?
Yeah, that's something we should definitely talk about, is just how much people have really been sleeping on Devonta Smith when he was a Heisman winner. And let's not forget, he went for 117 receptions on almost 2,000 yards and 23 touchdowns. That's numbers that you don't see every year in college football. Not only that, in 2019, he had 68 receptions for 1,200 yards and 14 touchdowns. I mean, this guy's an absolute monster. Will that translate into the NFL? Probably not at the high rate it did in college, no. But this guy is a very, very talented wide receiver, and someone who is, if he's taken a wide receiver 1, I don't think we should have questions. Again, as Suraj said, I've expressed my doubts about size, and I think people need to actually address that. Not being the biggest guy and being skinny is a problem in and of itself when you're getting hit constantly every game. Although, at least from what I've seen, Devonta Smith doesn't usually have injury history. Great receiver, 6'1", 175. So if he can maybe bulk, I know this is a stretch, but maybe if he can get closer to 200, that's what would, kind of make him that great receiver. But I think people need to stop sleeping. All right, number 1, we have Rondale Moore. No, I'm joking. We have JaMarr Chase. We've done this every time. Me and Charlie's Corners video, we're like, cornerback number 1. Like, we all know who it is. It's going into number 1. I'm not even going to make a joke about it. We know who it is. JaMarr Chase out of LSU, Mr. Opt-out. Yes, I know that may be a problem, but he is still number 1 on the field and number 1 in our list. Suraj, what is there to like about JaMarr Chase, and why is he number 1?
I think what you have to like about him is, again, very good route running, very good hands, showed a very good connection. Obviously opted out for this season, but last season showed a great connection with his quarterback, Joe Burrow, and really proves to be on a number 1 receiver on a core that had 2 other very good NFL level talents in Justin Jefferson and Terrace Marshall, who will also be drafted this year, most likely in the first 2 rounds. So when you look at JaMarr Chase, there's really not much. Like, he has a decent frame, obviously actually not that much taller than Smith. It has a much stronger build, in my opinion. And I feel like, again, route running is great. Catching is good. He, as he shows, he can go up against the best of the best, like AJ Terrell in the championship game a year ago, and absolutely
go up. He can
exactly.
He can
prove
embarrass
that
them.
He's done it against the best of the best in NFL level talent. I feel like he can do that just fine in that transition, especially considering his number 2 wide receiver, Justin Jefferson, did that with the Minnesota Vikings in his first season. So for that reason, I have him at number 1 easily. Not easily, but I have him as a number 1.
Yeah, and that's a great point. I mean, let's talk about it. He was playing with Justin Jefferson, who is one of the best rookie receivers we've ever seen. He broke the receiving record, and last year, JaMarr Chase outdueled him quite significantly, bringing 84 receptions for 1,700 yards, 20 touchdowns, and averaging 21 yards a catch. As well, he has 31 pounds on Devonta Smith, which is a lot of weight. That is a considerable amount of weight. He is 208, Smith's 175. I think Smith has an inch on him. So even there, I mean, JaMarr Chase is just a more built dude. And I just think he can do everything really, really well. Someone who's really good downfield, a very, very good go up, let him grab the ball, very good in the air, and is very good on the sidelines, has great, kind of route package, is very good on the route tree. And I think he's just separate because I like his explosive ability. And I just think you take into consideration size, what he's done with other talent with him. I think he has to be number 1. I think the only con you probably put against him is looking like he'll probably run like a 4.4, which again is not really slow. But looking at Waddle, who I think is clocking in at 4.37, Toney, who I believe is as well 4.4, and then Bateman, who's a 4.38, 4.39, which I know it's less than a second difference, but it does matter. At least in the combine.
I think in the game he runs more of a 4.5, so I take his average speed, but that won't hurt him too much, in my opinion, in actual games.
That ends it for our top 5 wide receivers. I know you guys probably already went to the comments and talked about some of our picks. Make sure to let us know. Ask any questions down below. As I said in the beginning, podcast every Wednesday. If you comment a question down below, specify in the comments down below if you can, if you want us to answer it in our podcast mailbag. Again, we will try to get them out to you guys every Wednesday. It may not happen every Wednesday, but we will try as hard as we can to do that. Follow our social media, Suraj. Where can they find us on social media, and what is our @
Instagram at the _scoop_.
No, that's
the
not,
underscore.
All right, you know what? He messed up. Never mind. Follow us on all of our social medias at the Sports Scoop, Twitter, Instagram. But yeah, that was our top 5 receivers. Subscribe to the channel if you guys are new. We're on the road to 1,500 subscribers. So if you could help us get there before the draft, that would mean the absolute world. This was Cian McDermott and Suraj Kadali, host and analyst from the Sports Scoop. You can catch us on another video. We'll see you next time.